Okay, Rose. Now, this is going to be the difficult part, Rose's mother said, looking at her with a kind expression. In order to start things off, I'll demonstrate the process and explain how it's done step by step as I do it. And then it will simply be up to you to repeat the process. So, pay very close attention, Rose, her mother said as she leaned forward slightly, placing her hands on the ground. You begin by first making a connection with the nature that you intend to interact with. Everywhere you go in this world and any world that has life, there are always unborn seeds of life spread everywhere. No matter where you look, you can find them. With our ability to connect with nature, we can find these seeds of life, and then we can give to them our energy, call them forth by imbuing that energy with our will and desire. You make the connection just as you did when you were attempting to sense the environment around you, but this time focusing on one small segment, not the whole thing. Find the seeds of life that grow there. If you focus, you should be able to sense them, and then, once you do, you imbue them with your will by making a request. Ask them for something, and by infusing them with your energy, your life force, they will do so, her mother said, as she lifted her hands slightly off of the ground, still looking down. And as she did, Rose began to see small vines starting to creep from the grass, emerging from the dirt beneath the surface, ever so gently, beginning to weave themselves, stretching out, winding around one another in what appeared to be a ring. They were winding around themselves to form a circle. Along with the vines, she began to see leaves starting to sprout from them, and then small buds, and in only a few moments, they had formed a circular ring of flowers wrapped around vines, springing from them, growing in various colors. It was a crown, a flower crown, and with no effort at all, her mother simply grasped the crown and picked it up. It was as if the vines that grew from the ground simply detached themselves, letting it go. And you see, it's just that simple. That didn't seem too hard now, did it? She said, smiling over to Rose, as she leaned over, placing the small flower crown on top of Rose's head. And so, my part has been completed. I pass to you this gift of nature. Nature and knowledge, a symbol of the love that I have for you, that we have shared together. A hope that, like this crown, your life will bloom ever forward and spring life eternal and anew. Rose paused for a moment, reaching up to feel the flowers lining the crown on her head, smiling a bit, as she could still smell the flowers. But at this point, she was uncertain of whether it was the flowers on her head or her mother's flower, the massive yellow petals of which still swayed ever so gently in the breeze, rippling like silk tapestry, shining a vibrant gold. Okay, Rose, it's your turn. Just do as I said, and it shouldn't take too long to be able to do it yourself. Try not to get frustrated if it doesn't happen immediately. There is a learning curve. So, Rose placed her hands upon the ground, just as her mother did before her, and once again attempted to close her eyes, trying to focus on the nature around her. She spent some time trying to focus before beginning to make the connection again. This time trying to stay focused on only the small amount of nature that they sat upon, trying to find the seeds of life, as her mother put it. And soon enough she found them. She could feel them there, just beneath the surface, seeds that have yet to sprout. And so she, like her mother, began to make a request. I want a crown covered in flowers. A crown covered in flowers, Rose thought over and over again. As she did, she began to feel a warm sensation in the palm of her hands, as if she had placed them in warm water. She opened her eyes to see that, just like with her mother, small vines were beginning to creep from the ground. And just as with her mother, they formed a circle, a crown that began to spring life. Small buds and flowers, vines wrapping around themselves to form the ring. Looking at the process, Rose couldn't help but feel joyful that it seemed so easy to do, like having a nice talk with the grass and asking it to do you a favor. Unlike when she was whirling around and going to different places through nature's eyes, this didn't really feel taxing at all. It in fact felt very simple and plain. Much easier. And so, with a joyous smile on her face, Rose picked up the crown as it detached from the vines in the ground, reaching up and placing it on top of her mother's head with a smile. And so the second step is complete, her mother said joyfully. A gift given of new life, from one whose life springs eternal and buds anew in this world, in hopes of prosperous future and in acknowledgement of knowledge past. A gift has been given, and a gift has been accepted. Rose's mother leaned forward, giving her a firm hug. Thank you, sweetheart. It's beautiful. I am so proud of you, she said, gripping Rose tightly. And Rose hugged her right back. In this moment, she actually did feel very connected with her mother. It seemed like such a small thing, just a crown of flowers, and yet it felt very special to Rose. And judging by how tightly her mother was hugging her, it felt very special to her mother as well, which only made Rose all the happier. As they finally ended their embrace, both feeling very cheerful, Rose's mother stood to her feet and extended her hand downward, offering to help Rose up. After getting to her feet herself, Rose brushed herself off a bit. Okay, Rose, now that you've got the basics down, we can start to have some fun, her mother said. Now we're going to try something a little more impressive, and this one we'll do together, she said, clasping Rose's hand and beginning to lead her to a nice spot placed in between two of the small ponds that were formed in this clearing. Okay, this should be good. I sensed a strong seed here. It should be perfect for what we need. Mom, what are we doing? Rose asked, feeling curious as to what her mother's plan was.